The week 4 NFL that was, Matt Williamson back from Ireland. The Ravens are in trouble. Titans, are they the worst team in the NFL? The Bengals might have something to say about that, and a whole lot more from week 4 on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers stopping in. And we urge you to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers, all you got to do is bet $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Welcome back stateside. There's some listeners, Matt, that were asking me, did Matt decide to stay in Dublin? Did he like it so much that he's just gonna stay over there in Ireland? You got to let us know how the trip was, and of course, we'll break down a little Vikings and Steelers as well. I hope you had a good trip, and I hope it was worth all of the flights and the jet lag.
Yes, and first off, I want to just public apologize. Kind of left you high and dry while I was gone. I mean, the time difference between you in California and me in Dublin would have been, I think, 9 hours, and just a little hard to work things out. That's neck of the woods.
Yeah,
it was a massively positive and rewarding experience, and I'm kind of honored to be a part of it and contribute in some way and do all those shows. The first time I've ever been in Europe. I got the benefit of going over on a Steelers jet, which made travel a little easier, but I'm not big on travel, and a 7-hour flight's still pretty difficult. And I'll be honest, the negatives are the travel. My body and mind never wrapped around the time difference. I never knew what time it is. My first Guinness, I think sometimes I had at 10 a.m. I don't even know. I mean, and I went to bed early. I went to bed late. I mean, so many things. But it was awesome, and mostly because of the people. The Irish folks just embraced the whole situation, even though a lot of them didn't have any clue what was coming. And Steeler fans from all over the world were there. And there is a Steeler bar that the NFL designated. There's a Vikings bar. There was a official gift shop that for the Vikings just for that week, for the Steelers, for the NFL. I mean, purple and gold and black everywhere, but Steeler fans outnumbered them probably 5-1. And there is a Steeler Rooney contingency, and just there was so much cool stuff. So I fully embraced it. I'm very happy to be home. The game was fun as could be, a widely different environment. Like, there wasn't even a press box. They roped off a section of seats for the press to sit at. So I sat in this bleacher seat, and I was fortunate enough to have a plug, and I didn't even know that there's different plugs over there. You have to have this adapter, all this crazy stuff. And it's really, really hard. I know we'll talk about Packers Dallas at one point. I didn't know how hard it was to watch things over there. Like, my Netflix subscription didn't work. My NFL Plus subscription didn't work. It's really hard to watch sports. I had to put on Twitter, how can I watch Sunday Night Football? And I got 8 different answers, none of which worked. So I had to watch this bootleg copy, and there was a logo in the middle the whole time, and it was 3 a.m. there when I'm watching Sunday Night Football, and all kinds of craziness. Small example, Thursday, I go to bed, I crash, I wake. I was finally the first time I really slept, after being a long trip. I wake up after being I was hit on the head with a brick, and I'm I have no idea what time it is. I think I've been asleep for 12 hours. I look at my phone. It says it's 11 o'clock Irish time, which means I've only been out 4 or 5 hours. And when I looked at 11, I'm it could be PM or the next day. And I really didn't even know. So I look at it, and I'm half asleep. And I'm oh, but the Thursday Nighter's on. I'll just throw that on while I'm here. And I'm no, it doesn't even start for 2 hours. So I set my alarm for 1 a.m. thinking I'll get 2 more hours. I'll get up, I'll watch the Thursday night game. So I do that. My alarm goes off at 1. I just throw the phone across the room like I'm not getting up. But I still got up like an hour later and watched the second half of that game of Arizona, Seattle. And because it was on at like 3 a.m. there. I mean, it starts at 1. And so second half started at like 2:30. So I watched that at like 3:30 to 5 a.m. Everything was bonkers, but I mean, it was very, very cool. Game went the Steelers' way, which certainly made the flight home much, much better as well.
Yeah, that's always much more nice when you're on the team charter from a victory back home from the.
I wasn't with the players and coaches, but I mean, we were still like minority owners. The Roethlisberger family flew out with us. You know, like it was people, inner circle people. You know.
One more quick question. What was the atmosphere like? Was there a lot of chanting? I know the European fans love their chants. We even saw the Ryder Cup team, the European Ryder Cup team this weekend, and they were doing their little chant afterwards. Was it as a soccer environment? Did it feel like a football environment? How were the fans at the stadium?
The fans at the stadium were remarkable. They were super passionate. There weren't chanting, but every song that came on, like Sweet Caroline came on, and you know, Zombie by the Cranberries, who's an Irish band, of course. And the whole place is just singing every note and screaming their lungs out. But there wasn't chanting. There also wasn't like food. You know, like you go to a press box, there's always food. They gave everyone a voucher, and we could go to this like hamburger hot dog place and get a dog or pay for it. I mean, like everything was different, and food in general wasn't exactly my friend, but made this joke that I thought there was it seems like a little sandwich in the bottom of every Guinness. Like they were filling enough to get you through the day, you know?
Yeah. Drink your dinner over there. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you just fit in.
Any big takeaways from Steelers and Vikings on the field? Obviously, the big play was the long touchdown pass to DK Metcalf. Kind of takes a little slant. The distance, the runaway freight train there. Where are the Steelers at? 3-1. The record looks good. Does the team match?
Yes, I think so. I'm the most optimistic I've been about the team. I thought it was far and away the best they've played. They got a running game going. The pass rush has been really dominant now for a while. I really thought they handled the Vikings almost start to finish, but almost let it get away from them too. You know, like there were some nervous black and gold people those last 3 or 4 minutes of play after Addison hits this 81-yarder from their own 1-yard line. And they almost let it sneak through their fingers. But they definitely benefited from, by the time that game is over, the Vikings were playing with 3 backup offensive linemen, and it really showed. And Wentz made some plays, but he also did Carson Wentz stuff like taking sacks and, so that combination worked in the Steelers' favor for sure. But I think they're in a really good spot. I know we'll talk about the Ravens here, but the AFC North looks like, Steelers are in control of, at least at the moment, going into a bye week.
We're going to try something a little bit different today. So I want to hear from the listeners. Let us know what you think. We got some clips from around the network, going to flex the power of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to hear from 3 hosts about 3 different games, specifically the Packers and Cowboys Sunday night tie, and some good quarterback play in that one. The Ravens fallen to 1-3, the Super Bowl favorites coming into the year. Near disaster there, and legitimate disaster with the Tennessee Titans. Tyler Rowland is fed up, the host of Locked On Titans. So we'll hear from them and talk a little bit more about some injuries and some other big stories and big reaction from around the NFL after 4 weeks next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good, right? The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp but feel stiff, hot, high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've been perfecting it ever since. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. And you can go from the office to dinner to even out on the golf course and still feel comfortable all day long. And right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-I-A-N, like Main Street. Mizzen and Main, promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. This episode also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL season rolling along. We're a month in now, and FanDuel still has an offer that you don't want to miss. And if you haven't jumped in yet, I don't know how long they're going to keep this offer alive. It's the biggest offer I've seen from FanDuel. $300 in bonus bets. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And we're talking about parlays, same game parlays, player props, follow live lines during the games, and maybe jump in with a live bet if you feel the momentum going one way or the other. NFL, college football, playoff baseball, everything you can imagine at FanDuel to get in on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, you mentioned the 3:00 in the morning Sunday night football game with the Packers and the Cowboys. And let's hear from Locked On Packers host Peter Bukowski about this game. And there's one aspect I really agree with Peter on from this Packers and Cowboys 40-40 tie Sunday night.
The Green Bay Packers tied the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night because they played not to lose. And I guess they didn't lose it. I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers, and it was a 40-40 tie. A tie. Because this Packers team, Matt LaFleur in particular, but I'll include Jeff Hafley in this as well, they played not to lose. They played not to lose. They played scared. They played conservative, defensively and offensively. And they still, because this Cowboys defense is putrid and because this Packers offense is really good, they scored 40 points. To that end, Jordan Love was incredible in this game. He was outstanding, and yet Matt LaFleur refused to take the governor off even at the end. Multiple runs late to set up the 53-yard field goal instead of trying to get into the end zone. One throw into the end zone at the end of the game. Just unthinkably conservative play calling from Matt LaFleur, and Rich Bisaccia cannot get off the hook here. Embarrassing. In a game you tie, you have a 3-point swing on special teams. Special teams cost the Packers a chance to beat the Cleveland Browns last week. If that kick doesn't get blocked, they win that game. They're 3-0 heading to Dallas. This week, a PAT gets blocked, it gets returned, and a 3-point swing in a game you tie costs you another chance at a win. If we just didn't have kicks in the NFL, the Packers would be 4-0. Rich Bisaccia, you were on notice, buddy.
The old special team, the forgotten third unit. I do big time agree with Peter. Well, a couple of things. One, Jordan Love did play great, and I thought Dak Prescott was awesome as well in this game. And the Packers definitely didn't put the Cowboys away early when they had an opportunity to. And the other part of it was, how could you talked about one throw into the end zone late in that game and in overtime? It was such a big opportunity for the Packers to utilize Jordan Love's legs around the red zone to potentially get into the end zone. I mean, it was just wide open for him to try to run, and they didn't utilize that at all. And I was just screaming at the TV, like, what are you guys doing? Jordan Love should be able to scamper into the end zone and make things really difficult on the Cowboy defense. And so I do have some questions, as Peter does, about that Packers team. And they're a team that should have a lot better record right now than 2-1-1 after 4 weeks of the season.
I think this is, a Dallas thing. I think Dallas is just luring the Giants and Packers into these shootouts where their defense is terrible and Dak's going to keep you in games, and Pickens stepped up. So I think we're going to see a lot of Bengal-esque from 2024 Cowboy games. I will investigate the special teams unit here for Green Bay, but Peter's on top of it. I'm sure that his statement, if there's no kicks in games or 4-0, holds a lot of value. And I also think some of their O-line issues are at play. But I don't know about you, I'm not real worried about the Packers.
I'm definitely not worried about the Packers, but
Yeah.
It's usually a sign of good teams where you think after the game, you think, man, how did they keep this game close? How did they pull that game out? Because things are a little bit weird. It's usually the opposite sign when you're like, how did this team not win this game? How is this team not winning these close games? And generally, I don't think that's something that affects the Packers, but is a little bit curious here. And yeah, maybe it's even more about the the Dallas Cowboys and the way they play. And maybe we buried the Cowboys a little too soon. Their defense clearly isn't good. They still give up 40 points in this one, but is Dak that good right now that he's keeping them afloat? And no CeeDee Lamb, no problem. George Pickens going huge in this game, a couple of touchdowns, 134 yards receiving, and of course Dak getting him the football. And it's a reminder how talented George Pickens is too, if he wasn't such a weirdo.
Exactly. Right. And I think the Cowboys are doing a good job of luring teams into their style of play.
But man, when you got that early lead and then all of a sudden you go into halftime and you don't even have the lead anymore at all, I thought this game was over. It's one of those where after the first quarter you want to turn it off. It's like, oh, the Packers are just going to blow the Cowboys out, aren't they? And that was definitely not how that game ended up going.
Like I said, I was watching it the first half, and I'm dozing, and I'm like, Green Bay's got this. Just fall asleep, Matt. Get 2 hours before you get on the plane,
I want to move on to the Ravens and the Chiefs, because this was a game that we were talking about for a week 4 game. You can't fall to 1-3. And it was the Kansas City Chiefs that were victorious. They improved to 2-2 now. 37-20 win Chiefs over the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens fall to 1-3. And not only do the Ravens fall to 1-3, the sky in Baltimore apparently is falling as well, Matt, according to Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens.
The Baltimore Ravens lose in one of the most embarrassing fashions you can have at the NFL level. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. 37-20, the final score. The Ravens lose to the Chiefs in week number 4. It drops their record to 1-3, and they look pathetic doing it. The defense gave them nothing. The Chiefs punted 1 time all game, and that came with about 3 minutes to go in the entire game. The Chiefs went 57 minutes without punting the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, the Ravens started off fast, but then really didn't get a lot going for the majority of the game after that. And you have the injuries continuing to pile up. Nate Wiggins, Lamar Jackson, Ronnie Stanley, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey all left this game with injury. Just about as disaster as you can get at the NFL level. Now the Ravens have a Texans team staring them in the face right now. You have to win that game. You cannot drop to 1-4, but there's a lot of soul searching to do, and definitely a lot of decisions that have to be made about how this Ravens team operates, because everybody looks dejected, tired, and really unmotivated here. It's a big problem. So for more on the Ravens, check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Pathetic, dejected. A lot of adjectives that aren't good to explain the Baltimore Ravens after 4 weeks this year, Matt. The maybe most surprising team in the NFL with how things are going right now in Baltimore.
Yeah, and not to look too far ahead, but Texans, Ravens, I'm not quite ready to call that a loser leaves town match, but 1-4 would be awful for teams we kind of penciled into the playoffs for the AFC. I don't know what to make of the Lamar injury. I guess we'll do more homework on that. And they have a Humphrey injury now. The secondary is not where you want it to be. But my biggest worry about the Ravens, which I'm not sure is going to get better, they're consistently losing on both lines of scrimmage. And they aren't playing with a lead. So Derrick Henry is being phased out. I think he has 50 yards rushing just in week 1, but not since. So he's on the sideline a bunch. They're playing from behind. That's not when he's in the game. They're losing in the trenches. And more worrisome to me is the defensive line. The Matabuke injury is a year-long situation, and they are getting pushed around and not getting off the field at all in a very un-Ravens-like fashion. Like Michael Pierce, you wouldn't think much about it, but he's 300 and a bazillion pounds and retired. And in Houston, it's always have that Saragusa in the middle of their line. They don't really have that at this point. They don't have the upfield penetrator. They don't have elite edge rushers. They're just getting pushed around. I think they'll be okay, but they're in a bad spot right now.
The problem for the Ravens is, and the Houston Texans really, and actually we're going to talk a little bit about the Texans more from the Titans' vantage point with that blowout loss for Tennessee against the Houston Texans. But the being just okay the rest of the way is not good enough. You have to be extraordinary the rest of the way make up for the hole that you dug for yourself early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I'm tied in with the Steelers. I did a show with them talking about the division. Steelers now have a 2-game lead. I've buried the Bengals. I'm pretty much burying the Browns, but they are who we thought they were. I'm not by any means burying the Ravens, but the room for error for Baltimore right now, with a lot of football to play, is narrowing, to say the least.
And on the other side, really good for the Chiefs to show they can go beat a team that
Yes.
people expect to be a good football team. And as was mentioned in that clip, one punt in the entire game. You get Worthy going. He has a long run and a long catch in that game, and so a 35-yard reception, 35-yard run in that game. So those things are very important for. The two-headed monster with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, pretty pedestrian there with those two guys. So
I wonder if the rookie Smith starts to get involved more.
I mean, I could see it. His yards per carry weren't great either. It's very much a Mahomes centric, situation. 4 touchdown passes, and look, he's the best player in the league still, I think, and so it's pretty important for him to be the catalyst of that whole thing. But it's kind of the only thing right now for that
I
team.
do think at least things are looking up, though.
Yes, yeah, and they are not in that hole that the Baltimore Ravens are right now.
No, they're not. I think they're in an okay place to be,
Some key injuries around the NFL that we've got to cover. But first, next, I want to get to Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans and his reaction to the blowout loss to the Houston Texans in Week 4 next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Rugiet. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence.
Ooh.
This is all about confidence, pure confidence. So if you are looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. Rugiet's Go Long isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can go the distance. In fact, the effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. You connect to a board-certified doctor, 100% online, prescribed discreetly, shipped discreetly, and your treatment ships discreetly to your door. So you ready to level up your confidence? Head to Rugiet, Rugiet.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure you use our code so they know we sent you. So look, I don't want to say that I want the Titans to continue to lose, Matt. I think that's going to work itself out, and they are going to continue to lose. But
I think there's not going to be a problem.
But I want to. I don't enjoy the misery, but I enjoy the passion from our own Tyler Rowland. You can find him on Locked On NFL, and you can find him on Locked On Titans Daily. His reaction to the latest Titans loss.
Seriously, my anger tank is on 0. I'm just sad. I'm just disappointed. This is by far the worst football team I've ever seen. This is the worst Titans team that I will ever see. This team is not going to win a game. There is a very high chance that this football team does not win a single game all year. And I got to tell you guys, I know the Titans don't want to fire Brian Callahan. I know that Amy doesn't want to look temperamental and quick-triggered and all of that different stuff. But what choice has this football team left them now? There is no way that you can get beat by 21 by the Colts, come back and then get beat by almost 30 by this Texans team and not fire Brian Callahan.
There you go. Brian Callahan, look, he already gave up play calling duties. That clearly didn't help because the nary a point was scored by the Tennessee Titans in Week 4 against the Houston Texans. And look, the Texans have been a little bit weird on the offensive side of the ball this year, but they do have a good defense. 26-0. By the way, one of us did predict, I was reminded this by a listener, one of us predicted a 25-point win by the Texans against the Titans. So we haven't been good this year in our predictions, by the way. But that one I got right, 26-0 Texans over the Titans. This one's probably more about the Texans being a really bad football team than the Titans, somehow getting things, or the Texans getting something very, very right now in Week 4. We'll see if that can continue going for the Texans. A big one against the Baltimore Ravens, as you mentioned, maybe a loser go home next week. But How do you feel about firing a head coach so early in his tenure, so early in the season potentially for the Titans? And as Tyler said, was this just overreactionary from him? Or not only is this the worst team in the NFL, is this the worst team ever?
Not sure about ever. Let's not go there. Now, I'm still really
in history.
Oh, yeah. I'm still really excited about Ward. And to me, that's all that you have to think about is what's best for him now and in the future. Is firing your head coach going to screw him up in any way? Is firing your head coach good for him? Maybe that is. Whatever is best for Ward. They are clearly 32 on my power ranks, though. They're a miserable organization that doesn't do anything well right now and looks like a long way away and maybe several off seasons away from building a competitive squad. Would they start selling off, Jeffrey Simmons and Ridley and those kind of guys at the trade deadline? Side note, I think this trade deadline could be really interesting. But what's weird, I don't know if I'm sure he thought about it, but if you fire the head coach, what do you do with his dad, who's like one of the best O-line coaches in the league? You fire him too? Give him the option to stick around? Or
do you give the dad the son's old head coach job?
How's that go at Thanksgiving and Christmas?
With any other organization, the old head with all the experience would be the guy who becomes the interim head coach. But that's his dad.
That's his dad.
And look, you can't fire the guy who got play calling duties, because now your rookie #1 overall pick has 3 offensive coordinators in his first season, and then we'll have another 4th to start his second season.
It's a disaster, right? What's the answer here?
You got to play this out a little bit longer. Callahan's for sure getting fired. The whole family is, but when do you do it is probably the big question. And clearly, whoever was the play caller wasn't the big problem. And so I don't know where that call came from. I don't think it was Brian Callahan's call to take play calling duties away from himself. So, there might be,
I'm sure
there might be some inner strife as well, where now Brian Callahan's like, well, look, now we're worse because you made me do this other thing that was not the right thing to do.
I don't know what else to comment here except for they're terrible. Would a coaching change help? I rarely think interim head coaches help an organization or development of a quarterback or really do much good. But this is unacceptable. You also send a message if you let it go that we're okay with this too as ownership. And do we trust ownership to get it right?
Speaking of bad teams, what would be the line if the Bengals and the Titans played in week 5? Because
I think the Bengals are a bottom 3 or 4 team too.
They're bottom 2 probably.
Yeah.
Without Joe Burrow, obviously 28-3, the Broncos, and they just didn't put up a fight against the Broncos on Monday Night Football. It was like,
like
the Broncos would give the ball to the Bengals, and maybe after a touchdown or whatever, and the Bengals would say, "Oh, you know what? We're good. You guys here. You have the ball back. You guys possess the football, and then we'll just eventually fly home." It was pretty insane how there was just nothing going on for that team. There was a little conversation between head coach and star wide receiver. Didn't look super heated or anything, but clearly this is not going to go well without Joe Burrow. They did have a couple of wins with Joe Burrow early in the season, even though I was skeptical of how well that was going to go. They look without Joe Burrow, they look like one of the worst teams, if not probably the second worst team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, the defense isn't any better, which was horrible to start with. It's basically the same. Not surprising because they didn't really do much to address it. And I threw out on Twitter deep into that game, is this the worst offense in the league? And I didn't get a lot of people fighting me on it. They penalties and alignment stuff, and what are they good at? And I worry. I've said this for a couple of years about Burrow just being unhappy with the organization as a whole. Is there a coaching change coming this mid-season with them? Is that seat hot? Or if they end up with the 3rd pick in the draft, are they all getting fired? And how are Chase and Higgins and Hendrickson and those type of guys going to respond when they're 2-12 and just getting their head beat in every week?
Right. Well, Hendrickson probably has to be top of the list, and I'm assuming the Bengals are going to lose quite a few of their next, handful of games. I would think that Hendrickson's at the top of the list of potential trade deadline candidates.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Titans would trade Simmons or not, but at least you could make a call potentially on him and not think that's a crazy idea. They have already drafted their quarterback, so the Titans have an opportunity maybe to get the number 1 pick and sell it to the highest bidder and get a whole lot of picks really quickly from another
maybe
team.
Maybe the Bengals too. And come to think of it, if they pick like 1, 2, who wants the top quarterbacks? Come get them.
Yeah. The Bengals though are 2-2. They're not 0-4 like the Titans.
Right.
Could they talk themselves into being less sellers today and maybe try to go get a Russell Wilson or I know 49ers fans have said, hey, trade him Mac Jones, or like you get a starting caliber player for the short term, and then you could still sell later at the deadline if that doesn't work for the next few weeks, because this is obviously not going to work.
Unfortunately, you and I haven't chatted for a while, but I have linked Wilson to the Bengals for about a week now. And to me, that move I would condone because he's cheap. He's not going to kill your salary cap. What's he cost? A 6th-round pick, 7th-round pick? I mean, they have
nothing,
Winston, nothing. So at least Winston. I would, or Winston. If I was the Giants, I'd just keep Winston as my 2 and get Russell out of the building, and
Yeah.
But I would understand that from a Bengals perspective. At least let's give this a shot. I don't know when their bye week is. Maybe you could work in with that, but I would do it now. But I tend to think that that's the definition of plugging holes in the Titanic.
Absolutely. Speaking of quarterbacks, we might have a new quarterback change in Cleveland. We've gotten a number of big-time injuries around the NFL. Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Colton Miller now with the Raiders as well. So tons of topics for tomorrow's episode, plus your questions. We're changing things up ever so slightly. So let us know what you think about adding some of the clips and some of the hosts around the network to our show more often. And we're going to do some Mailbag Wednesday instead of Thursday. So get those mailbag questions in for tomorrow's episode of Peacock and Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL in the YouTube comments, and subscribe while you're there. And Matt and I back tomorrow right here. Peacock and Williamson.